Hi, I'm Ryan Daws, editor at IoT News, and with me today is Brian Cerchio, who is the Director of Solutions at Losant. So Brian, can you just tell us why now connected devices are really starting to generate significant value for enterprises?
Yeah, connected devices and the connected product space is really in the next past few years has become really important in differentiating in the marketplace. You've kind of gotten, from your industrial space, the product was always there as far as the hardware device was. Now where the really big value adds are of what you can do with that data coming from that device. The big space I've really seen the differentiator for each of our customers or also product lines has been how do you add value to a customer that it goes above and beyond just the actual physical product itself. So a traditional model was always preventative maintenance where, let's say you have a technician come out every 6 months or every year and they kind of check and see what's going on, what's happening. That's always very reactive. And what the kind of IoT, industrial IoT space with connected products makes the value is going to be being really proactive and understanding what's going on before you're texting out there, before you're have that data and knowledge of what's going on with the devices and be able to kind of improve upon what's not even just out there, but also the product line itself and showing value to customers for how to improve efficacy and efficiency in that space.
And you, of course, have a software development background, but Losant is part of its low-code approach. How important do you think that is in terms of getting sort of enterprises started on their IoT journeys?
I think the biggest lift always was having to have a really, really solid software development background was kind of a big lift for a lot of companies to handle. Didn't have departments that understood that or really wanted to invest into it. The low-code approach kind of makes that level of entry much easier for business development, business intelligence folks to understand and get into and get defined data pretty quickly versus having to really dive and spend a lot of investment to get any information out of it. So I think lowering that barrier of entry is the biggest value add that you can see there.
With many platforms, low code can often mean low flexibility and low ability. How does Losant strike that balance between accessibility and capability?
That's a big thing is that we, with our low code environment, enable you to get in with a low barrier of entry. But we don't restrict flexibility by still enabling. So we've got even custom nodes that are, you can write your own full JavaScript, doing everything behind it, complete like Python notebooks and all the kind of data analytics if you want to really dive deep, but it's not a requirement. So we kind of give you the ability to get in easy and early, but the flexibility of expanding if you want to go really deep and dive into it.
And that's, of course, one of the big differentiators for Losant. But in what other ways does Losant differentiate from other IoT platforms?
Yeah, I think our flexibility is one thing that we kind of think about as a really key differentiator is that we not only kind of let you use whatever you want to. So I kind of, when I was talk to our customers and ourselves early on is we are pretty data agnostic as far as data ingress in and out. We don't really care where it's coming from, where it's going. We can really work with anything, and through our flexibility, that kind of gives us a great value out there. But we have so many already custom built first-class integrations that you typically don't have to. And if you do need something, we're going to kind of work on make sure it's in the right space for you.
Your colleague, Brandon Canaday, has a similar entire session on the topic. I'm sure you're not going to steal his limelight too much at this year's IoT Tech Expo North America. But in your view, how can enterprises sort of fully tap the IoT's potential?
The way that you really want to tap that potential, and Brandon has a talk we're going to go over in a month or so, is really the way to tap IoT's potential is to first look at what the core crux problem is. I see a lot of customers that will come in and think that there's some sort of issue that they have, and it's usually coming from a product manager or something from the top down, where I think a value also is going to be coming in and looking at and talking with the actual end users themselves and looking at what's not what we think the problem is, but actually the problem is on the ground. And we internally use a very agile approach to that methodology. So yeah, we're going to keep reiterating and looking and seeing what the market defines and what we need to go to.
Edge computing is kind of making a bit of a resurgence. What role does that play in kind of unlocking the value of the IoT?
A huge role. What you see a lot in IoT is constricted devices as far as not just network capabilities, but also maybe the actual power of the hardware itself and cost restrictions. So being able to do things on the edge, first off, really cuts down on connectivity. So a lot of times you've got, in IoT, things are out in very weird areas with maybe spotty cell coverage, where even cell coverage may be expensive. So the more you can do on the edge and then pass it up to the cloud, saves a ton of money just in bandwidth, but also on time and processing capabilities of the actual solution itself.
And of course, you've been involved with many IoT projects, pretty much end to end, from planning to development to testing to ultimately to deployment. If you had to give one case study as an example of great use of the IoT, what would that be?
We've really seen across the board. There've been a lot of different projects and a lot of different spaces that we've been in. One good use case that we could start with here would be in the industrial space. So we've worked with a large manufacturer of industrial devices and compression systems, and at least $50,000 or $100,000 machines that have a lifespan of 20 to 30 years. So clearly, we want to understand what's going on with them for a long lifespan. So the real idea was helping the service technicians add value to their customer base. When I talked earlier about that traditional preventative maintenance role versus being proactive, was understanding trends in the marketplace. So let's say we have a motor that started seeing that when the motor amperage draw started going above this kind of threshold, that we knew probably within 6 months there's going to be an issue with this, a timing belt, whatever that would be. So that's really where I think the biggest value as we're seeing there is being able to be a little much more proactive in that space.
Well, we've blitzed through those questions with great, concise answers. So that's everything from me today, Brian. So thanks for coming along to speak to me, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
I really appreciate the time, and thanks for this morning.